The following comments were pulled from the Easy Allies Patreon page among our $10 and above patrons. They represent what our community was playing and talking about in September. I've always anticipated the launches of Sony's consoles with childish glee, and in the last couple of years, watched as the E3 circus has propelled Sony to a level that undoubtedly surpasses its competition, but also in the way they enthrall, deliver, and connect with their audience and community alike. Even though I mainly game on a PS4, I still have an original PS3, which remains my main family entertainment hub with its comprehensive connectivity and functionality, and my only means to play my favorite game of all time, Red Dead Redemption. But suddenly, with the launch of the PS4 Pro, I am confused, bewildered, and left with a sinking feeling. Where did my beloved Sony go? Why does it feel like you're cheating on me? Is the grand romance over, or is it just that you had something important to say and said it in the worst way possible? You have made a skeptic of me, and I will not step out naked as an emperor. Sony's decision-making with the PS4 Pro announcement was really confusing with such a sizable lead over Microsoft. I don't like the Scorpio comparisons with the Pro, as it's more suitable to compare it to the Xbox One S in terms of performance. It's not something I'll ever get because it seems that only a lesser than the majority size of the market can capitalize on it with the massive cost of entry required for a 4K TV. But let's be positive. PSX is coming. Time for good vibes. It is great to see you guys playing the HTC Vive. I got mine not too long ago, no regrets. I also got the Logitech Drive Wheel, and now I'm enjoying Project Cars in full VR. There is nothing like it. I'm glad Ben got to experience Japan. That place is magical. I myself am ready to experience the experience this December in Anaheim. I'm excited for VR and the other games that will be announced. PSX, here I come. Resident Evil, the best game ever, and Transformers Devastation, among others, are PS Plus games on October. Please play them, you won't regret it. Probably. Wake me up when September ends, and bring on PlayStation VR. Ever since Pokemon Go hit phones in July, my 4-year-old son and I have been regularly hunting Pokemon together on evenings and weekends. It wasn't long into our new hobby that I successfully convinced him to explore the rest of the franchise with me outside of my phone. Over the past 3 months, we've played through Pokemon Snap and both Pokepark games, enjoyed many rounds of the Pokemon pinball titles, and made some real headway into Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team. It's been a wonderful bonding experience and a lot of fun, generating hours of laughs and conversation. He understands type advantages better than he understands the Earth's day-night cycle, and I'm deeply proud. Strangely, the only Pokemon games I can't get him to care about at all are the main line of RPG adventures. But to be fair, he's 4. Regardless of whether he ever grows into turn-based games or not, I'm feeling pretty grateful for those pocket monsters these days. Long live Pokemon, and praise be to Arceus. I am an avid lover of the Battlefield series, having played since Battlefield 2. However, after playing the Battlefield 1 beta, I'm unsure how I feel. I did not enjoy playing Battlefront last year. There is a level of strategy present in the older Battlefields that I enjoy, and I feel that both Battlefield 1 and Battlefront miss the mark. The battles don't have consequences for dying. I don't want to be rewarded for sprinting around the map spraying bullets. The gunplay doesn't feel realistic. After having just purchased an Xbox One S for the purpose of playing Gears of War 4, I was delighted with the announcement that the spectacular Lost Odyssey was added to the roster of backwards compatibility. After missing the chance to finish the game 10 years ago, this essential JRPG has remained buried on my bucket list ever since. Despite the barrage of releases incoming, this is a title I will absolutely make time for, in an effort to finally conclude the saga of this epic and somewhat forgotten masterpiece. It's been over a decade since the first Ace Attorney game was released in the West. I remember slotting it into my original gargantuan DS Fat on the day it came out and being drawn in immediately. At the time, I felt it was less of a visual novel and more of a Japanese interpretation of 90s point-and-click adventures, and that remains true to me. The combination of the witty localization and incredible sprite work still affirm it as one of my favorite DS games. So naturally, I've been playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirit of Justice for the past month. The preceding decade has been one of highs and lows, with some of the best cases yet being in recent releases, but a sense of familiarity burdens the more monotonous sections. When the dialogue is sharp and the twists are blindsiding, the music steps up the tempo, and nothing more than a text box and a wagging finger can set my pulse racing. Yet when the culprit is obvious, and the solutions more so, progress can slow to a trudge, and enthusiasm decays. Spirit of Justice, like almost every game in the series, has moments of both. Yet, as stifling as the worst moments can be, they're worth struggling through to get to those thrilling junctures where the criminal is writhing at the podium, gnashing their teeth, as you suddenly realize what key piece of evidence will blow the case wide open. And at that time, I activate the microphone and I shout, "Objection!" I agree that No Man's Sky has almost no story, and its gameplay is quite repetitive. But it's for the better, because it makes it so easy to jump into a game once in a while for a short play session. When I want to relax or simply play something while another game is downloading, I launch No Man's Sky and continue my slow traveling to the galaxy's core. I'm one of those guys who never owned a Nintendo console, but has owned almost every single handheld, with the exception of the DS for some reason. The idea of the Nintendo NX being a hybrid console, with games getting developed for it from both handheld and console developers, has my hype levels through the roof. If this ends up being what I think it could be, the NX will be my first Nintendo console. With the possible Beyond Good and Evil 2 teases that Ansel has been posting on his Instagram, I can honestly say I will buy an NX day one, just for BG&E 2, if the rumors of it being exclusive are true, although that won't stop me from buying it on every available platform. I have been waiting, holding out hope that someday the sequel would finally happen, and now it almost feels tangible. Between Nier 2 and BG&E 2, I have to wonder if a sequel to Eternal Sonata, Resonance of Fate, or even a new Mega Man is somewhere around the corner for 2017. September is gone, and Nintendo has said no word about the NX. Is this thing really supposed to come out in 6 months? I know there are a lot of mixed feelings about remasters, HD remakes, and complete editions, but I'm all for it. I missed BioShock 2 and BioShock Infinite. Now I have a great opportunity to play them as well as playing through the original for the first time since 2007. I missed Dishonored when it first came out and managed to pick it up on PS4 for just $6.99. What a great game. Because of these releases, I got to play The Last of Us, the original Uncharted trilogy, and South Park: The Stick of Truth. I'm not complaining. While I'm excited for The Last Guardian and Final Fantasy XV like the rest of the gaming community, I am just as hyped for Thimbleweed Park. Ron Gilbert point-and-click adventure games are some of the best games ever created. It's regarded as a spiritual successor to The Secret of Monkey Island, which happens to be my favorite game of all time. I am hyped for Scum. Anyone who isn't interested in this game needs to fight me in some insult sword fighting. I started playing Warframe on PC. It's the kind of game that's great to mentally tune out and gun down your enemies while ninja parkouring. But it also has a deep progression system to immerse yourself in and slowly grow over time, although it is admittedly a bit grindy. Regardless, Warframe has been a nice change of pace that I would recommend to fellow allies. I finally beat Deus Ex Mankind Split this month. Yay for me! Almost got through it without a single kill, but then I had one of those, ooh, what does this button do moments, and electrocuted a cop. Dang. However, what really had me excited and scared this month was losing countless hours to the early access of Divinity Original Sin 2, a turn-based RPG at its finest. It's only the first act and there's no voice acting yet, but I can imagine Ben Hink being the narrator, Michael Bossman as the lizard tank, Bradley Moore as the thieving rogue, Ian Huber as the elf archer, and Kyle Ellis as the mage. Haven't been sleeping much because of this game, so tired. I just finished the System Rift DLC for Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I have to say, while the actual DLC was good and the story was interesting, how they've decided to handle DLC is baffling. It's a separate game with separate save files for each, and you have to rebuild your Jensen when you start it, and they won't give you anywhere near the points you had at the end of the game, so your Jensen will be stuck with half the abilities that you're used to. It warns you to play the story first before playing the DLC because of spoilers, and you would assume it takes place after the main story, but that is clearly not the case, as it seems to take place at some point before the endgame. I think they want the DLC to exist on its own as self-contained stories, but it feels cheap. Like I've lost my agency in the world because nothing I did or will do matters in the DLC. I would have preferred a post-endgame DLC that drops hints as to developments in the world, Jensen's continuing investigation, seeing events lead in the inevitable direction of the world state from the first Deus Ex. Or maybe I'm just an old man shouting at clouds. I've been revisiting Fire Emblem Awakening again after hearing the Allies talk about it briefly on the Easy A podcast, and I have to agree with what Damiani and Kyle said about it being far better than Fire Emblem Fates. I'd go as far as to say that it's probably one of the best games in the SRPG genre. I just completed Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which I discovered thanks to Ben. It was amazing and made me consider a trip to Japan. I look forward to Persona 5 even more. As someone that wasn't anticipating the game at all, I'm surprised how addicted I am to Overwatch months after its release. Every night I look at my full gaming plate of single-player campaigns, and Overwatch almost always wins the battle for my attention. But this phenomenon isn't exclusive to Overwatch. I think our brains find extreme gratification from outplaying other human beings in any highly polished, very balanced multiplayer game. When you really break it down, so much of our strategies in single-player games involve exploiting an enemy AI pattern that's designed to be taken advantage of. It almost feels bad to stealth my way around unnaturally oblivious guards in Deus Ex, or bait one enemy at a time in Dark Souls or Fire Emblem, but I feel no pity in punishing a mistake made by a human opponent in a round of online 4 glory in Smash Bros. It's funny how it feels much better to exploit predictable behavior, when the predictability isn't something programmed by the developer. I thought I was done with World of Warcraft. After defeating the Lich King with a group of 9 close comrades during the final weeks of Wrath of the Lich King, I was finally burned out. Despite having been initially excited for the new changes being introduced with Cataclysm, I figured it was time to enjoy other games, one that I had missed out on during my tenure with WoW. Mass Effect, Dragon Age, you name it. Blizzard did its best to bring me back in. Pandas? No thanks. My own Garrison? Pass. They even tempted me with a free week of game time, but still, I found it was not enough. Even when Legion was announced, I still found no reason to return. Then news began trickling in about the changes being made, and slowly, I became interested in playing again. I downloaded the public test realm client, and was immediately hooked into WoW again. As soon as the changes were released into the live realms, I returned to the game I once abandoned. I found, though, that I wasn't alone, as former guildmates who also made their escape since Wrath of the Lich King began returning as I did with the introduction of the Legion expansion. I thought I was done with World of Warcraft. Wizards of the Coast recently released a new form of Magic the Gathering online, which took up a lot of my gaming time in September. They have a new draft league, which allows you to break up the drafting in actual games into different sessions. Now I can play Magic drafts 30 minutes at a time, rather than being locked in for 2 to 4 hours. I think that while MTG is the main inspiration for games like Hearthstone, Hearthstone has been more successful due to its streamlined gameplay and interface. It seems like MTG has made certain aspects of newer sets with digital in mind first. I'm excited to see what MTG does next, and I hope that more interest from players will result in more improvements. Why did the game Freedom Fighters die into an unknown abyss? The game had very high ratings from many critics and was easily one of my all-time favorites from that era. I cannot think of any game like it since then. Homefront The Revolution is a failed attempt, no doubt, but I was more surprised by the fact that no reviewer that I saw compared it to Freedom Fighters. I would love to see a proper reboot of that game, but unfortunately, I think we'll have to wait due to the failure of Homefront. If you have never played this game, then please do yourself a favor and buy it. I really don't need to say much more. If a game's narrative can excite you so much when it's in a foreign language, with gameplay and visual storytelling so stylish yet coherent, imagine what it would do to you when you actually understand it all. Bought the Japanese 20th Anniversary Collector's Edition, and I am dying for the English normal release. Persona 5 has taken my heart. Damn you, delays. How dare you take South Park from me? This is gonna make me feel kind of gross, but I have to praise Konami. Pro Evolution Soccer 2017 is the best football game ever made. FIFA may have all the licenses and the bigger budget, but PES 2017 gets it right where it matters most, on the pitch. It kind of pains me to say it, but well done, Konami. I'm just happy Ben got to go to Japan. Hello, Easy A. Nobody, including Nintendo, knows anything about NX, so let me ask something else. Have any of you ever been to Latin America? What about Costa Rica? If you ever want to do a beach special, let me know. PSX is coming to Anaheim this year, and I am elated that I will be able to attend the convention this time around. Better yet, I will hopefully be able to meet up with other Easy A fans so we can freak out over all the awesome content coming in 2017. Everyone, meet up by the Yakuza 0 kiosk. I have been an avid Bluetooth user for a few years now. After I had stripped the headphone jack of 2 Discmans in my first MP3 player, I leaped wholeheartedly into the Bluetooth game as soon as my mobile devices supported them. In my car, I even have a Bluetooth adapter that fits in the cigarette lighter and plugs right into the auxiliary jack, so I don't need to keep plugging and unplugging a cord. For those afraid of making the jump to Bluetooth, I hope you'll keep an open mind and see the positives of cutting a couple of cords from your daily routine.